Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Raw Knuckles Podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe. I remember I was talking to Frankie or something, and we're talking.
Wow.
And the kid kept, butting in. And I'm there, hang on a sec. I'll get you in a sec. I'm talking to someone. Can't you see? And the kid's, fucking, and it kept going. Finally, fucking, he threw a punch, and I fucking cracked him. And then, it just went. And they were off-duty cops from there.
Yeah.
And anyway, we give him a beating. We get out of there. We all jump in the car. We just got out of the parking lot, and the cops come flying in. And we crossed. There's a causeway out to the hunt.
Yeah.
I must have been going like 90 miles an hour. Boom. We got across the causeway and then ducked in, and
somebody was done for that night.
Fucking crazy.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
I'm alive. He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town.
Special edition, Christmas edition of the Raw Knuckles Podcast, and we brought in today to join us. One, Jimmy Vesey, my best friend, who we played hockey together in Boston. With the Bees for a short time, and certainly have done a lot together off the ice. And two, help us with the special Christmas edition, my good friend Sunil. And Sunil has the Habs Cave in his basement. If you've never seen it on Instagram, you got to check out the Habs Cave. I've never been to a shrine dedicated to a hockey team like this one. It is the most incredible place I've been. Everything Montreal Canadiens, from the toilet paper roll to the, your toothbrush holder, to the pool table, to the ping pong table, to the hockey, to Patrick White. It's incredible. Anyway, Sunil, thanks for joining us today. And now you have the reins, Sunil.
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. Really nice to meet you, Jimmy.
Nice to meet you.
I think everyone will be excited to sort of have the tables turned. Chris is always asking the questions. Now I get to sort of ask the questions and let you guys sort of tell your stories and talk. So I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'm sure the listeners will be too. So look, let's get started from where it began. I mean, Chris is from Roxbury. You're from Charleston. How did you guys meet? Like, how did this happen? How old were you? When did you meet? Let's hear it, Chris. Jimmy?
I'll cut in real quick.
You start, Jim.
Not Roxbury. Everybody says Roxbury.
Knuckles is sorry.
Roxbury. Okay? I'm from not Charleston, South Carolina, Charlestown, Mass, Boston.
Got it.
But I always knew a Knuckles. He hung around with guys my brother's age, and he always had a good reputation. And like I always tell the story, it come out in the Boston Globe. There was an article about Chris, that this guy's going to be playing in the National Hockey League. And it was an incept in the Globe, like Boston Magazine. So I read it, and right away I started following closer. Like, wow, this kid from the city is going to be playing the NHL, because there wasn't many guys playing in the NHL back then. So everybody in the city kind of adopted Chris Nyland. He was from West Roxbury, Charlestown, South Boston, Dorchester, whatever town you're in, they said he was from that town. So I knew Knuckles from Charlestown with guys, older guys, a little older than me. And then Chris and I started playing together with the Bruins. We happened to be roommates, but we knew each other before that through a mutual friend. And then everything else from there, we became best friends. We spent a lot of time together. Ended Chris's career in Boston. We were together, and I was there when he went back to Montreal the second time. And I always told him, you're going to like Lyle Oderline, because they were clashing all the time. I said, Chris, I play with Odie. He's a good guy. You're going to like him. Sure as shit. He goes there, and Odie's his best friend when he gets back to Montreal.
Yeah. But it's funny. Yeah. Jimmy and I, again, there's, so I think 7 years difference between me and Jim.
Yeah.
So Charlestown guys I hung around with and played hockey with a little older at the time. So Jimmy, I remember, used to go to the Boston Garden. There's a big crew of Charlestown people that used to go to the games all the time.
Yeah.
They all worked over there too. They worked the Bull Gang. You know, the Bull Gang is when they changed the floor from basketball to hockey, all that stuff, concerts. Anyway, all Charlestown kids worked in there. A few Salty kids. Anyway, they used to all go to games. And Jimmy, when the Habs were in town, would always told me, he said, God, I always look for you when you get on the ice. And then you know, right? Man,
Oh, yeah.
You used to go all the Habs games, all the Charlestown guys.
And have tickets either, Sunil. We're getting in there through roofs, through fire escapes to catch this game. This was must-see. This was a must-see game, regular season, when the Canadians come into Boston. Yeah. It was a buzz the day before. And a lot of it was because of Chris, you know, and he would torture the Bruins off the ice, on the ice, the stands, everything.
But going back to those days when you guys were kids, was there rivalry between towns? Did your friends accept Chris because he's from Roxbury?
West Roxbury.
West Roxbury.
Yeah, Knuckles
did they accept him, Chris? Was he accepted into the group? Was there a rivalry? Which town was tougher? I'm sure you guys had that conversation.
I'm going to say Charlestown. I think Chris will say Charlestown. A little crazier, but Chris was the tough of the tough, so he was accepted.
Yeah, as far as a rivalry, was I accepted by those guys? Listen, once they brought you over that town, you're in with guys, you play hockey and stuff, you're pretty much accepted by them, you know? You know, there's times we brought people over there, Jimmy, me and you, guys, when we play for the Bruins, we go into Charlestown, we go to the bar or something, have a few beers, and, you know, guys were pretty much accepted right away.
Yes. You know, it's where I grew up, Sunil, was 1 square mile. Everybody knew everybody. So in the old days, when you brought a guy over there and he wasn't known, everybody would just stare at him. You know what I mean? Like, who is this? So
make you uncomfortable.
Make you uncomfortable, yeah. So a lot of times you had to be careful who you brought over, because all of a sudden you go to the bathroom, next thing is something's happening. But once they accept you in our town, you're accepted, and you were from there. Like Chris could walk around there at 3 o'clock in the morning, nobody's going to bother him.
Well, Jimmy, touching on sort of who Chris knows and who Chris doesn't know, or who you grew up with, I'm assuming there wasn't a lot of guys who look like me running around in your crew. What do you think about Chris now? I mean, he's, living in Montreal. He's so multicultural now. He's got Indian friends, Chinese friends.
I like it. I love it. I met
native friends. What do you think about that?
And you know what? I'm glad he's meeting all different people, because like I always say this, I don't care what color you're, your nationality, good people are good people. And you know what? And you know that when you're talking to somebody, genuine people are genuine people. I don't care what color, what race they are.
Yeah, and it's so true. But again, Sunil, it's funny you say that, and it's true, because back when we grew up, they had the busing in Boston, and there was a lot of racial tension back in our city.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of confrontations between black kids and white kids.
Yeah.
And it was a shitty time. It wasn't fun to grow up in. You're a white kid on the train going through the black neighborhood, you're in trouble. Yep. You know, you're going to get a beating, or something's going to happen. And likewise the other way.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of tension and animosity. And I think, Boston got a bad name and a bad rap for being a racially intolerant city. I think they've made strides moving forward. And the further away you get from that era, I think the better it's gotten, but it's still there's still some lingering effects of that, and we just grew up in a real crazy time when it comes to all that the bus and everything.
With Chris saying that, we didn't even know why we didn't like them. It was just brought into our attention. They didn't know why they didn't like us. You know what I mean? And it was stupid. Later on in life, you start playing with guys, different nationalities. And when you're in that dressing room and you're going out to play a team and you know that guy got your back, you don't care what color he is. He's with you. And I think of when I play with Darren Banks, who I still talk to him, a black guy to play for the Bruins. I play with him in Providence. And Banksy could fight. I had Banksy in Charlestown, all the guys accepting him, at the house. You didn't care. When you're in hockey, I didn't care what color it was. Just like my son later on played with P.K. Subban. And him and P.K. Subban are still friends to this day. with PK retired, he lives in New York. He'll go out with Jimmy on an off day. You know, so with hockey, it didn't make a difference when you play with different color or nationality. You know, Russian, French, didn't make a difference. They were with you.
So let's get into the good stuff. You got to have some stories, you two running around. There's got to be some stuff. Let us into, give us one good one.
Well, here's one. I'll start this one. I'll let Jimmy finish it. We're in the
one that you can tell us, bunch of us. One that you can share.
Having a good time. And there was a guy in there, a good friend of Jimmy's.
Yeah.
They grew up together. Yeah. Now, this is loyalty here, Sunil. Take a lesson in loyalty. And me and Jimmy are tight. And this kid grew up with Jimmy. Anyway, I'm talking to Jimmy's friend and another guy, and they decide they're going to badmouth a friend of mine from Charlestown, one of the older guys that I hung around with. And they're badmouthing him. And I decided to speak up. And I spoke up, and I said something to both of them. And I ignored them after I said it. And I caught out of the corner of my eye, the kid threw a punch at me. And I just got out of the way of the punch. Well, I went, the wires touched. And I went after him. Anyway, everybody broke it up. They saved me from killing him. Jimmy took that kid outside and proceeded to beat the living shit out of him. Busted his nose. I mean, fucking give it to him good. And, right, Jim? Remember?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
So when you talk, I'm in his town now, and one of his guys that he grew up with fucking tried to throw a shot at me.
And what happens on that is Chris is with me.
That's loyalty.
That's my guess. That's like he's in my house. You know what I mean? You don't screw around like something like that. That's what pissed me off. And these two guys that started, one guy got the other guy going about a good friend of Chris's. And of course they knew Chris was going to get pissed. But to pull that bullshit when he's there with me and other guys that grew up my whole life was bullshit. And
Jimmy took him outside and give it to him. And now, even after he gave it to him, Sunil, I wasn't too, I didn't get to give it to him.
Yeah.
So, I knew where the kid worked. And he worked at Airborne, the delivery service. So I know what time they get off. And I drive over to South Boston 2 days later. And they're all getting off work and they're all in the garage. I walk in the fucking garage like I own Airborne. And they're all looking at me. Hey, Knuckle. I says, where's so-and-so?
Yeah.
And they go, he's right over here. He comes over. I say, hey, are you ready to fucking go now? You got no one else around, just me and you. You ready to throw a fucking punch out in front of everybody? I said, you want to fucking hit me now? Come on. Let's go right here. I'm giving you a chance. Not throwing a punch from the side. Well, he fucking melted down into his sneakers and apologized, everything. So, So there you go.
Yeah. And you know what? There was a lot more stories like that.
That's a good one.
Where sometimes they got to the point where, even worse than that, where I remember one time I wasn't there and my brother was there and Chris was coming from a golf tournament. I forget who he was. He was Chris Chelios' brother, Steven, I think, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Pulled into the Spud. When we called the Spud, that was in the bar we hung out.
The Sweet Potato. The name of it was the Sweet Potato, but we called it the Spud.
Yeah, and Chris was swearing using the F-bomb. Like, nothing bad, but I guess one of the guys said, hey, with my wife, can you knock it off, Chris? And Chris, blah, blah, blah. Luckily, my brother was there because the guy Chris was having a vacation with was
dangerous
guy, very dangerous guy, and a gentleman. But you know that's how wires something like that crosses. Somebody ends up, not in a good spot. So
Jimmy's brother saved me that night. Yeah, and McGurdy too. Tommy. Tommy was there, and I'm telling you, I was out of my mind. I had a little too much to drink, and I was out of line. I'm just glad he didn't handle it the other way.
Yeah, got handled the right way. And there was a lot of stuff like that growing up. You were always something seemed to happen, and it was always nice if you're with Chris, you definitely knew there was somebody else that was going with you the whole way. And not that we looked for it, because I don't think we did, but seem to follow us around a little
Well,
bit.
I'll give you one more, Sunil. How about the Porthole Pub, Jim?
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
So we're at the Porthole Pub. I lived in Nahant, which is north of Boston, when I played for the Bruins. And Jimmy's with the Bees now. It was after practice. We had a couple days off, and we decided we're going to go out for a little bit. We're at the Porthole. Me, Jimmy, Frankie, Sully. Chopper. There's 5 of us. And we're at the bar drinking, having a blast. Now, poor Frankie's passed on now, and so hasn't Sully. These 2 guys. And Big Frankie was at the bar, we're drinking, and what was it? The off-duty cop, right? There was off-duty cops, right? Would come up to me and fucking started with me.
Well, they're talking, and you would say, "Can I have a second? I'm just talking to my friend right here."
Yeah.
And the guy kept on going, and one thing happened to another. Somebody got stuck, and next thing, we're taking on the whole bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
the 5 of us, it was fucking crazy.
Crazy, and I'm out. I have a major shoulder surgery, so I got one arm. The other guy's got a bad back. So long story short is it broke into all hell. But we got in our car and we left. Cops were flying in the parking lot. We're leaving, driving Kristen in the heart, and somehow, with the help of God, we made it out of there unscathed.
Oh, geez. I'm telling you, Sunil, it's like nuts. I remember I was talking to Frankie or something, and we're talking, and the kid kept butting in, and I'm there, hang on a sec, I'll get you in a sec, I'm talking to someone, can't you see? And the kid, fucking, then it kept going. Finally, fucking, he threw a punch, and I fucking cracked him, and then, it just went, and they were off-duty cops from there.
Yeah.
And anyway, we give him a beating. We get out of there. We all jump in the car. We just got out of the parking lot, and the cops come flying in. And we crossed. There's a causeway out to the hunt. Yeah. I must have been going like 90 miles an hour. Boom. We got across the causeway and then ducked in, and somebody was done
for that night.
Fucking crazy.
You know, Jimmy, you mentioned that, as long as Chris was there, someone was going to go all the way. So you were good. Along the way, you played with a lot of tough guys, right? Twist, Chase, Odie. Did any of those guys not like Chris?
Well, you know what it was. Back then, there was no social media. So I used to bust Chaser and Twister and Odie and whoever I was playing. I go like just another college pussy winning another fight. You know what I mean? Just another college pussy. Because that was their name. College fucking pussy, blah, blah, blah. So, and then I'll tell you a funny story. Chris made the All-Star team, okay? And I knew it before it was announced. So I'm in the dressing room stirring up. I go, I bet you Chris Nyland might make the All-Star team this year, right? I'm throwing a fishing rod right out to them, right? And they're biting on it, right? I got Chase. I'm making, you shit me. What are you doing? I said, okay, bet. I'll throw $100 up. Everybody bet. I must have took 5 of them for money. Next day, Chris was announced as the All-Star. I said, boys, keep your money. It's too easy taking it from you guys. But, they used to say they always want to know about Chris. I used to tell them, hey, Chris is who he is. He ain't going to back down for nobody, and he's tougher off the ice than he is on the ice. I said, you guys grew up fighting like that. We grew up fighting on the streets. You know what I mean? So it's a whole different game for us. We couldn't fight on the ice. And, a lot of those Canadian guys were tough guys on the ice, but a lot of them never had fights like we had. I'm talking about gang fights or brawls and stuff like that. It's totally different. But when push comes to shove and you get to know these guys and you're playing hockey together, you're in that bond for life. You know what I mean? And those guys here, like, if I didn't play hockey, I would have never met probably Chris, who lived 20 minutes from me. Never mind guys from Edmonton or what the hell was
Porcupine Plains.
Porcupine Plains. Jason was from Porcupine Plains, and Darren Kimball from Lucky Lakes.
Lucky Lake.
Yeah, and Dave Thomason. But they all moved to Charlestown. All the guys that play for the Bruins that I know, I'd have them live right in Charlestown. They loved it. They loved it. Everybody would treat them good, not because they're the Bruins. They wouldn't talk hockey with them. Make sure they're all right, taken care of, parking, whatever they need. And so all the guys had some good memories of living in Charlestown when they played for the Bruins.
Chris, did you guys ever play each other?
No, we never played against each other. No. And we just played together that short time. And what happened, Jimmy got a sucker pass up the middle, and he got hit by Stephen Finn in Quebec.
Quebec,
and he fucking crept up on him right at the red line, and he blew his shoulder out.
And it was shoulder same like that afterwards, and I had to come back. I had to wear one of those sour braces. The following season, the game just got less fun because I couldn't protect myself in front of the net. And long story is, I'd follow Chris from afar before you couldn't get scores and everything else. Then when he went to the Boston Bruins and he was with the Bruins, I was dying to be there. You know what I mean? Here I am in Peoria. He's with Boston, running around the city, and Nyland's back in Boston. You know what I mean? They hated him when he came in with the Canadians. We used to have to send guys up in the stands. There was some guy up there yelling. We had to send Frankie the Fixer up.
Yeah.
Stop yelling.
My parents, remember Frankie the Fixer that night with my mom and dad?
Yeah.
Some kid was fucking yapping my father, and fucking Frankie the Fixer come over and cracked him. Boom.
There was no more yapping.
There was no more yapping, is right.
You got to understand this. When Chris was there, you're talking about Montreal, who as Boston fans, we hated them because they were so damn good and they broke our hearts so many times, So when they came in, they're worrying about Chris Nyland. The day before, here comes a dreaded Habs and Chris Nyland. And he lived up to everything they fucking talked about him about. He didn't disappoint in that place. There was a show on every night he was there.
Yeah.
He put a show on. You know what I mean? And the Canadians would win and break your heart, but we loved Knuckles, but we hated the Canadians. We respected them. It's like the Yankees. We respected the hell out of them, but we hated them. But they won. In Montreal, I used to see them come in. Then later on in life, I'd go up to Montreal with Chris. We'd go into the alumni room. Every Canadian sitting there with a sport coat on, tie on, and I'm looking at legends. And Chris is introducing me to some of these guys. I grew up, I had their hockey cards. And I'm like, wow, look at these guys. And the way they carried themselves. You can tell a lot of pride and good leadership year after year in that organization. And I met some very good people like Ray Bork for the Boston Bruins, who grew up as a Canadian fan his whole life. Like Knuckles grew up a Bruins fan. And, Ray had to go through a lot of that going home in the summer after losing to the Canadians. But I think Ray's career turned out pretty darn good, too.
Excellent.
But, you just meet a lot of good people in hockey. And I can tell, Sunil, I seen your thing with the Lamb Foundation. I want to tell you, that's an awesome, awesome room you have there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You bleed with the Canadians. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you're dying for another one.
And I can't help comment on that low-key big B on your hat over there. It's just, it's killing me.
I just had that hat. I was going to put a Knuckles on.
Sure.
I was going to put the Knuckles hat on today, but I would have looked too like a hammer neck. So
I got it. I'll take that role over.
Yeah,
So I know that you're a scout with the Maple Leafs.
Yes.
Well,
you don't like the Maple Leafs?
I'll reserve my comments for off camera about the Maple Leafs. If you had to give a scouting report on Chris, and Chris, if you had to give a scouting report on Jimmy, can we hear that? I want to know about what you guys think.
All right, I'll give Jimmy's scouting report. Here's the deal: pure goal scorer, fucking tough as nails, fight anybody. Didn't fight all the time, but if anybody thought they could take advantage of him, they were wrong. If there's a weakness, it was his skating. He was a little. That's what. Listen, Jimmy scored fucking 47 goals twice. He had 93 points twice in Peoria.
Yeah,
93 fucking points. He had 47 goals twice. He could score fucking goals like no one. But honestly, I feel he never got the chance in a league where, at the time, you didn't need blinding speed.
Yeah.
Back in our era, you could live with guys that weren't the best skaters.
Yeah.
And why? Like, well, some of them just because they were fighters, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't skate, but they could fight. And there's guys that had maybe not so fast that just didn't get that longer look where other guys did. They had speed and they could fucking fly around the edge. I think Jimmy did get screwed in a lot of ways. He never quite got that opportunity to play consistently enough to get your confidence, especially at the NHL level.
Yeah.
And I do think he got screwed.
I appreciate that, Chris. And before I give
he'll say he didn't.
Boy, Chris, I give the scouting report, Chris. I think of some guys that never even got a game that were good hockey players in the day.
Yeah.
And I know I didn't get a great chance, but I don't go there. But I feel for those guys. And back then in hockey, you had to play because if they smelled that you were nervous on that ice, that was like a shark on a sail. They were coming for you. They could smell it. You could tell who was scared out there. Not that everybody didn't have the butterflies, Chris included. When you know you had to go out there and do something, when you're going against a lineup and there's 5 or 6 of those guys in the lineup, you know it's coming somewhere. So it toughens you up and makes you rely on your teammates a lot. You know what I mean? And I always prided myself on being a good teammate and always be there. But my report on Chris Nyland is a guy that left Northeastern with the heart as big as Boston. 17th round. He thinks he's in the first round. He's going through that door. That's all he needs. And he told Guy Lafleur and them he was coming to camp. And Jacques Lemaire, they didn't believe him, but he was there. And guess what? He wasn't leaving there till he left his mark. And he tells a story how every day after practice, I think it was Bert Templeton or whoever, was working them and teaching them.
Claude Ruel,
Yankee boy, Claude Ruel. And teaching them, till Chris Nyland ends up playing with Bob Gainey and Guy Carbonneau on probably the best defensive line in the league, and he's the reigning king. Where, yeah, those guys tough as Chris, but he knew how to do it, and he knew how to do it the right way, and he could really make a stir in the game where they talk about it years later. We're still talking about some of the shit he's done. You know, but the guys loved him, and he knew he was taught by those guys with the leadership. Like the one day he talks about when he was pissed off on the ice because they skated him after practice. Bob Gainey, I think it was, come out and said, "Hey, what's the matter with you?" Chris said, "Yeah, fuck, I'm sick of this and that." And Gainey gave him a few words, and Chris said, "Wow, it hit home." You know what I mean? So he was taught the right way by a lot of good leaders in that organization. That's why he bleeds the Canadian thing. He has a tattoo on his arm because he's one of the most favorite Canadians up there. I was up there in this thing, and the people still go crazy for him. That says a lot for an American kid that was a 17th round pick to have that much influence in an organization for what he did. But you know what? He became an unbelievable two-way player, scoring over 21, 22 goals in a league when it was men played. You know what I mean? It was a tough league, and Chris was one of the best at it. Chris had a heart, like I told you, as big as Boston. And nobody was going to take advantage of him. Whether he lost the fight or not, you were going to get it. He's one of those guys, if you fought him, when you woke up the next day, he was on your stairs. So you might as well pack a lunch when you're going to fight him, because it ain't going to end till he feels like it's going to end. Whether he's bleeding, nose is broken, he's going to get in, and you're going to know you're in a fight. And that's the way he lived his life. He didn't fear nobody. I maybe feared one person. I think I'm right on this, saying
you are.
Henry Nyland's the only man. Yeah, I would too. Like I told that game when they had him and Chris in handcuffs, I said, "Hey, get the father out of here. You think Chris is tough? Get the father out. The father will clear the whole stadium right out." And Henry was a man of principle, Green Beret, but Henry was right or wrong. That's it. And he ran the house like that. And Chris won't know that, taught him a lot of things, but you know, that's where Chris got that fire. And nobody was going to beat Chris. Meaning, even if he lost, Chris would make sure he felt like he won. He was getting in. He was coming back too for round 2. You better be ready for round 2. And he didn't fear size, you know. And like, you know, Kelly Chase, him, they're about the same size. And a lot of guys that are a lot bigger just don't have that fire in the belly. And Chris had that on and off the ice. That's what made him successful.
Well, I mean, I always notice that. You know, I'm around a lot of alumni player, and you know, Chris is in these pictures, but everyone sort of seems to tower over you, Chris. It's no knock on you, but it's amazing in that Chris is defending all these bigger guys. It was always impressive to me. So basically, I'd like to ask you guys about today's game. What do you think about today's game? What is it missing? How does it differ from the time you guys were on the ice? What would you like to see? What's it missing?
Well, I'll just throw my 2 cents quick. God, I just look at the rash of hits from behind in the last month. Okay, there's been a lot of hits from behind. I think the fighting element, they've wanted out of the game for so long without taking it out, but they found ways to temper it. The game is so fast. Now guys who play that role can't keep up. So you get rid of those guys. They're gone. Now, there are some guys that can skate and fight, and we see who they are, and they're in the lineups now, but not every team has one. You know, I think the game has gotten a little bit watered down from the standpoint that with the red line out, we see these long passes, chip in the zone. It's a little, honestly, a little too fast. And I say that because, you know, when you see teams now, like I said, that long pass, chip it up, defensemen have a difficult time to get back to the puck before they're going to get put through the wall. And a lot of times a guy will cheat off, one D-man will cheat off without that red line and be able to get back to the puck and zip it right past the forecheck. If you had a red line in, one, it's safer for the players. Two, teams will have to come up the ice together. They're so good with the puck now, right? They do the fucking Michigan, all this stuff. They pass in real tight areas. Let's see them pass their way up the ice. Give defensemen an opportunity to be able to hold the blue line. They won't be able to cheat off as much. And I would think you would see more of a forecheck now where teams get in and start to cycle the puck down low and force teams to defend well and then counterattack. So, yeah, listen, there's some good things about the game, and then there's some not so good today. And I think one of the things I hate about today's game is fucking iPads. I hate them. Honestly, if I was a fucking coach, I'd smash every fucking one of them on the bench.
I agree.
And that would be it for the iPads. I hate guys come off the ice, they go right to the fucking iPad. And I get it. They're visual today. But here's the deal. You know when you fucked up on the ice. Get on the bench, catch your breath, talk to your teammate, and get ready for the next fucking shift. Pay attention to the game. If you have a problem and you're not sure, go in the fucking coach's room between periods and watch the video. So, you know, that's some of it. I think they overprotect fucking goalies now. You know,
I think the biggest thing that I miss from growing up, I miss those old rivalry games. The Bruins coming in to play the Canadians. You were waiting for that 2 days before. You're waiting for that build-up.
Now it's, right?
They don't have those rivals no more. Yes, it's good when you see the Rangers play the Islanders, the Bruins play, you know, the Canadians, Calgary, Edmonton. But before there was so many rivals in Hartford Bruins games, Montreal, Quebec. I mean, look at the stuff that went on those games. I mean,
Edmonton, Calgary, right? Edmonton, Calgary.
I mean, these are great games, but I can honestly say when Chris was saying you got to pass that puck up the ice, that's why we got to bring that red line in to protect. Right now, like we were taught, dump the puck in, two guys went in, forecheck. You had more of a cycle in there, forecheck and holding the puck in the zone. Today, it's in, it's out. You know, guys are flying around. Yeah, they're skilled. They're in great shape. And everybody says, oh, the game's not as tougher. You know what? Let's face it. The NHL, when you had guys like Chris who were playing every night and he had to drop the gloves, Canadians will lose. And that's why they taught Chris, Jacques Lemaire, or whoever said, hey, Chris, we need you on the ice too. And Chris wasn't sure. Like, you're pulling my leg here. I got to fight. They made Chris into a player. Chris could play. He wasn't hurting the Canadians when he was on the ice, but he also could be a resident tough guy and be out there standing up. Today, the game doesn't have any fighters like that. Yeah, there's some guys. The kid in where the hell is he now? Toronto, Reeves, a couple other ones, Wilson. But every team used to have them.
Delorier.
All those. Poirier. All, you know, guys had them in the team. Everybody had them, and in the minors was 4 or 5 of them. Okay. Yeah, some guys probably would get weeded out because of speed, but let's face it, the game's still tough. There's still intimidation in there. And you know when Ryan Reeves is in the lineup or whoever else are in the lineup, Tom Will, teams are a little more quiet. You take those guys out of the lineup, I guarantee in warm-ups, the other team's so-called tough guy is yapping a little more, yapping from the bench a little more because there's no he doesn't have to answer to anybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if you don't have that guy in the lineup, I don't care. When you look around in your dressing room and you look around and you say, holy shit, we don't have anybody in. We're going against 2 or 3. Your asses get a little tighter, let me tell you. You know, your ass gets a little tight. You know what? We grew up on the street where you fight and your ass might get a little tighter. It gets the same way. It's nice to have somebody when you're going to war with you. Yeah. Not war, but you're going into a battle. And you like to have guys with you that you know are going to be there. Yeah, there's guys today in the NHL that will jump in, they help out. The only thing I hate about today's game, one of the biggest things, like the iPad, is when there's a good, hard, clean check. Everybody looks around. Oh, do I grab him? Grab him?
Yeah.
What good is that? Hockey, you're supposed to be able to step up and hit a guy. I'm not saying a blatant elbow or something like that, but the good checks, it's like, why do it? Now everybody, you got to get in, you got to fight all this little scrap. It's stupid. Get the guy's number, come back with another good check on him, a home on him. I'm not saying you go out and run Gretzky or guys like that. Yeah, there was an unwritten rule in the day. You didn't hit the top guys. You know, you might have played them hard, but you didn't go out and run Gretzky, run Steve Yzerman or Mario Lemieux. You just didn't hit those guys. You might have hooked them and all that stuff, but now today you hit anybody, and it's like you got to go and answer the bell.
Jimmy, do you think Chris how would he fare in today's game?
Oh, Jesus.
Would he make the lineup? Would he make an NHL lineup?
It'd probably be a Hall of Famer on the team. I'm not saying Hall of Fame with those numbers. You kidding me? They'd be begging to get this guy. Every team would want him because he's going to do it. He ain't going to pussyfoot around. He's going to do what he did and play the way he did. But maybe some of the actions would not be accepted where they'd probably have him in after school, whatever the hell programs. But if you want to have a guy in the bench that you know can play, and nobody's going to start shit when you're out there, that's the guy you want right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, like Sunil, like the Habs had Abajak guy here on defense. Yeah. And I've had so many guys on here, and I asked them about him, and they absolutely love having him in the lineup and feel so much safer, confident when that guy's in the lineup. He is so fucking big, and he has such a presence out there, and he can play. That's the thing. He can play. It gives those guys confidence like you don't know. And they've all said it. They friggin' love him. And it's tough now. He's had the injury. He's in the minors right now. He's down in Laval.
Is he 2-week conditioning, Chris? Is that what he is?
Yeah, he's in the American League. They put him down there for conditioning, apparently. So I'm dying to see him get back. But they have so many goddamn defensemen now. It's like, it's tough. You know, I'm sure he'll be back. But
Montreal won again tonight, didn't they?
Yeah, they won last night.
Yep.
So if you guys had to go to war, who would you guys choose on your team other than each other? What do you think?
I just from experience, without saying Chris,
yes,
I'd take Twist and Chase, just because I played a lot of years with them and I seen a lot of damage they done. And Twister was a big puncher. Chaser was a hell of a team guy. Nobody did anything without him not stepping in. You know, he's battling right now leukemia, so I want to send a little shout out to Chaser from all the guys in Boston, myself, and all the guys, friends of mine that known him. We're praying for him. But that kid here, he was a great teammate. He reminded me a lot of Chris. A lot of Chris.
There are a lot of similarities. Yeah,
a lot of similar size, the mouth. They could hit with their fist, but their mouth never shut up, man. They were good. They get under your skin that way.
So I can't take Jimmy, but he'd be number one.
Yeah.
I would take Tom Regan.
I like O'Reilly too. I like Terry O'Reilly too. Let me get that in there.
When I say go to war, I'm talking off the ice too.
Oh, okay.
On the ice, off the ice. Tom Regan.
Yeah, good man.
Fucking out of his mind, and a guy that
don't fear nobody.
He ain't fucking asking no questions. If I'm in a beef and
he's with
there's
you.
a problem with me, he's with me. And on the other guy I'm going to say is Chris Chelios, and I say that because if you look, I got a picture up here where I'm squaring up with O'Reilly, and there's Chelly in there trying to keep O'Reilly away from me.
I got that
you
picture.
watch.
Brown.
Go to the Brown fight.
I seen that.
With no jersey. Chelly's trying to stop him from getting to me.
Yeah.
And then the night in Boston, the brawl in the hall, when I hit Tillier, right?
Yeah.
Chelly tried to come in and jump in right away because, Miller's coming. Fuck it. I was getting surrounded. He come in right away, and McCarthy ended up fighting McCarthy. But Chris Chelios, every time we're on the ice together and something happened, he always fucking was right there jumping in. And I would take Chelly in a heartbeat. Loyal, not a loyal guy.
I met Chelly through Chris. And here's a guy who was a legend in the league. And no matter where I was, not that I'd see him a lot, he'd come out of his way, come over, shake my hand, have a few drinks with me, and always made me feel good. Like, I'll never forget Jelly like that. I always tell Chris, one of the best guys that I've met in hockey through Chris, you know. But there was a lot of guys off ice, you know, that I would take that you wouldn't know them, so I couldn't throw them out there. That make it to the NHL. They made it to their own NHL.
Let's go back to something personal. Yes, tell me something about Chris that no one else knows that you think we can all you could divulge.
You know,
give us some insight on Chris Nyland.
You know, he loves history, right? History's his number one thing. And I used to be going up to Canada with him. I wasn't feeling good at the time. I was going up to get medicine, and Chris would drive me up like a friend he is. And he'd give you the quizzes and start saying stuff. So I'd start asking questions to him. He thought I was busting his balls at first. And I said, no, I'm intrigued. And he would tell me about World War II, blah, blah, blah. We'd go on. We'd talk from Boston to Montreal about history. And this kid knew it all. I said, wow. And I'd start picking his brain. At first, he thought I was busting his balls. You know, just like the time I said, when I was younger, they used to say Chrissy Nyland. They referred to him in Charleston as Chrissy Nyland. You see that Chrissy Nyland last night? So I called him Chrissy one day. He go, you break my balls? I go, no, you were known as Chrissy Nyland when I was a kid. Yeah. We used to call him Chrissy Nyland. Yeah. But, yeah, he loved history. He's smart, and he's a lot smart. He's a very smart guy off there. He puts his mind to something. He digs in. Kid's a smart kid. Everybody thinks hockey players, oh, this and that, not smart. He's a very bright kid.
Well, thanks,
Chris,
Jim.
Any insight on Jimmy?
A couple things.
Yeah.
A couple things. We know he's computer illiterate.
I can admit that.
A lot of people don't know. In college, he was fucking brilliant. He had an unbelievable grade point average. Very smart in college. And a lot of people don't know this. Jimmy's dad passed when Jimmy's mom was pregnant with Jimmy. So he grew up without a dad. And I'm going to tell you, it's a credit to his mom and his sisters and brother. He's the youngest, and they protected him and helped bring him up in a town where it's so fucking easy to go the wrong way. And to grow up without his dad, and that driving force behind it all was his mom, who really, she played the role of mother and father.
Yeah.
And Jimmy loved his mom, but she fucking knock him off the head and keep him in line, right? And was a wonderful woman. So a lot of people don't know that about Jimmy, that growing up in that town without a dad is not an easy thing. And, you know, he made it to the NHL.
If I could say one thing, when Chris told me that, I always thought about that. And my mother told me as a young kid, there's no excuses. Don't come home and say you don't have a father and all that. No excuses. Everybody has one. She said, you're gonna, you know, blah, blah, blah. Taught me. There was no bullshit. I couldn't use like, oh, my father, I don't have a father. That wasn't accepted. You know what I mean? My mother was everything to me. And she raised me, and I was no angel. But if I did wrong, mostly mannerism, respect, I heard about it. You know, today they'd be putting my mother in jail because you can't yell at kids or touch kids. Well, my mother was very hard on me, but very, very nice. Like one of the nicest women. Everybody always says that about their mom, but my mother was everything to me. And I appreciate that, Chris.
So, West Roxbury. You were saying Roxbury, and it's West Roxbury. And the reason why Jimmy kept correcting you is I'll let Jimmy tell you.
You know, West Roxbury is predominantly Irish Catholic. Roxbury is 99% African Americans. Okay, that's their section. Charlestown, South Boston, West Roxbury were the Irish sections. North End was the Italian sections. Not that it makes a difference, but
in East Boston,
Roxbury, Imperial Boston say he's not from Roxbury. You know what I mean? It's West Roxbury. Now it's weird. My father grew up in Mission Hill, which is a part of that section, right, Chris? Kind of.
Yeah.
Mission.
Oh yeah, Mission Hill was part of Roxbury. It was on the edge of Roxbury, but it was all Irish for years.
All Irish. Father grew up. You know, but the changing thing. But West Roxbury's always been Irish Catholic, pretty much, Chris. Right?
Yeah.
But we always used to think West Roxbury was the rich Irish. We don't know why.
We had two toilets. We had two toilet Irish. We had two
but
toilets.
That was the chip we used. Somebody told those rich bastards from West Roxbury. And then meet Chris and his parents. I said, where the hell's the richness in this family? You know
Jim,
what I mean?
we only have one bathroom in my house.
I know I was fixing it. You was fixing it at the end.
Yeah, right? He didn't even get to use it, my father.
God rest his soul. And
Larry.
Yep.
Larry fucking did the addition and put another bathroom in, and my father passed before it was done, and then Larry passed 2 months later. Fucking crazy.
Yeah. As Chris' mom was sick at the home, and Henry was carrying his Chris's mom upstairs to go to the bathroom all the time. So they decided to put the bathroom downstairs. Mr. Nyland passed away. One of Chris's oldest and best friends, Larry Jackson, who did the bathroom, passed away right when COVID, all that was sad.
But you know, when we talk about West Roxbury, and a little history lesson on Boston, right? It's a very segregated city, right? People wanted to live with their own, right?
Yep.
And you know, you see that a lot today. You still see it. Chinatowns, the North End in Boston, Italian, the Irish still. South Boston, but
before the forced busing, Chris,
the forced busing screwed the whole city up.
Everything, whole city up. It used to be everybody would get along. You know, it might be everybody live in different sections, but there was no problems. It just got bad reputation throughout the country. Really, that Boston.
It was terrible. It was terrible. And what happened, Sunil? The forced busing. The federal judge came in and said, "Listen, we gotta start to integrate schools. Black kids going to school with white kids." But what happened is, say South Boston, Jimmy lived in Charlestown, all right? Say he's going to Charlestown High. And the sports teams were unbelievable. On Saturdays, Charlestown would play South Boston in hockey. And the Boston Arena would be full of people from South Boston and from Charlestown. There'd be fights in the stands and a game on the ice. Oh, fuck.
Like the Bruins Canadiens. That's how much it was a rival.
Yeah.
You know, it ruined all the city league to today. South Boston and Charlestown High don't even have hockey teams, Chris.
Yeah, it's crazy. Merry Christmas, everybody. Sunil, thanks so much for taking the lead today. We had a great day. Jim, awesome stuff. Merry Christmas to you guys and your families. Appreciate it.
Sunil, Merry Christmas to you, and you got a dynamite room there. Keep up the good work.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Great chat.
Take care.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.